Meet Jim. Jim is the Director of Operations at Acme Corps. He oversees three main groups: Mobile Service Technicians, or MSTs, line workers, and administration. Jim works tirelessly to make sure that these groups are informed on all the practices of their day-to-day operations. To make sure his information is accurate, he relies on an expert from each group. With the help of his team, he has the confidence to get started documenting his processes in HowFactory. To start off, Jim wants to make sure everyone in his company is added to HowFactory. He can check his users under the People setting, which is found under the Manage icon. As he scrolls through the users, he notices that one of the new hires has not been added to the system. Jim has the option to add individuals, but if he wants to add large groups of users at once, he will need to contact HowFactory. After Jim has added the new user, he wants to make sure that they have access to all the information that is relevant to their day-to-day tasks. The new user is a mobile service tech. Jim can add the user to groups by clicking on the Add Groups option in Edit mode. He notices that there is no group for MSTs. Luckily, Jim knows that he can make and edit groups using the Group option found in Manage. To make a new group, he can click the New option at the top of the secondary sidebar. He can add and remove users and other groups, as well as create admins within the group. Now that he's made the group, he wants to make sure that all the processes for MSTs are in the system. Since there are so many processes in his list, he can use the filter to narrow down his processes by collections, document types, groups, or tags. He can also use the search bar at the top. As he looks through the MST processes, he notices that there isn't a process for repairing a server. Jim knows that it's important for his team to have this information in order to do their jobs efficiently, so he'll create a process. To start, he must first create a draft. To create a draft of the process, he can go to the Know-How icon and select Drafts from the drop-down menu. He'll then find New at the top of the secondary sidebar. Now that he's created a draft, he can begin to add content using the secondary sidebar. He knows that clarification is key, and unlike other platforms he's used, he can add images, videos, bullet points, documents, acknowledgements, decision points, or quizzes. If there is an important action a user must take, acknowledgements require a user to check that they have performed the task before moving on in the process, verifying that valuable information was not overlooked. Additionally, decision points allow Jim to create an if-then situation for different issues that may arise. The different decision points can then be linked to other processes or steps, allowing the user to check other resources. Once Jim has finished creating his process, he wants to verify the accuracy of his work and does so by submitting his draft. Once submitted, it will appear under the Submitted tab under Drafts. Since Jim is a system admin, he will receive a notification that his draft is ready for review. Clicking on the notification will open up the process. From here, he can make any edits. Jim can also add important information in the header. This is where he can assign the process to groups. He makes the MST group the draft's primary group. To make sure he didn't miss any valuable information, Jim decides to submit the draft to a workflow. He does this by going to the Actions option in the top section of the secondary sidebar and clicking Choose Workflow. A modal box appears that reminds Jim that he must pick a document type before continuing. Now that a document type has been selected, he can view the different workflow options. He notices a problem. There is no MST workflow. Jim knows that he needs the MST group to look over his work, so he decides to create a new workflow. At the top of the secondary sidebar, he can click New. Now that he has created the workflow, he can begin to add stages. He makes sure to include his expert from the MST group. Jim also wants input from other members of the MST group, so he adds the MST group to the workflow. When he adds the group, he has the option to have any group member, all group members, or a specific group member sign off on the draft. Now that he's created the workflow, he can assign his draft to the workflow for accuracy. Jim now wants to test that the mobile service tags have retained the information, so he decides to make a quiz. To make a quiz, he can go to the Quizzes option under the Manage icon. At the top of the secondary sidebar, he can click New. The first screen he's presented with is the Manager. Here he can set up several options to customize who takes the quiz, when the opening and closing dates are, if it is a recurring quiz, and many other options. Once he saves his options, the secondary sidebar will allow him to create questions. Jim has the ability to enter 3 different question types, including multiple choice with media, and multiple choice with pictures. These different question types will help his users fully understand the tasks they are trying to complete. Once he's made his quiz, he can check the reports to make sure his team is taking the quiz and passing. Now that all the processes have been made for his mobile service text, Jim wants to make it easy for his team to view all of their information in one place. To do this, he decides to make a collection. To create a collection, Jim can click the Collections option under the Manage icon. He can then select New at the top of the secondary sidebar. Now that he's created the collection, he can add content such as relevant images or videos and a summary of what the collection covers. To add processes to the collection, Jim can click the Add option in the secondary sidebar and checkmark the processes he wants. Now that he's added the processes, Jim has the ability to rearrange and remove processes. Jim has now successfully created and organized all of the processes for his mobile service text. Now he wants to make sure his content is being viewed. To do this, he can select the Stats option under the Manage icon. Here, Jim is provided with data that will allow him to better understand if and how information is being consumed. He uses this information to identify areas for improvement within the company. Now armed with the basic knowledge of the platform, Jim has the confidence to ensure that his company has the proper information to complete their work safely and efficiently. If he has any other questions, he knows he can visit HowFactory.com/support.